Hey, what is going on, guys? Here to talk about the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate. We got San Francisco and Seattle. If this is your first time watching, my name is DK, and I do cover content for Draftkings and for Prize Picks. Prize Picks, they have the sponsor of the video. If you're not familiar, it's a player prop site. You build 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6 player props and win up to 25x your money. All the sports are listed up top. So if you guys want to give it a try, you can use my code DKDFS for a 100% match up to $100. Also, link is down below. And if you're looking for premium content, I do have my Patreon linked in the description as well. A lot of different packages. If you guys have any questions, you can always hit me up in the comment section or on Twitter. But yeah, so if you guys, recapping the Monday showdown, if you avoided injury, let me know what the lottery numbers are, because there were like 22 injuries last night. Literally everyone in my lineup got injured, and it sucked because I was on the Greg Dortch fade at his ownership, and I got completely roasted for it on Twitter. I basically just said this. Everyone was telling me that Greg Dortch was a lock and an easy play. And my response was, I'm not so sure, right? There's uncertainty. I personally believe that their best bet was to play him in the slot, but coaches are dumb. And what they did was they played AJ Green and Robbie Anderson out wide. So again, I got completely roasted for that take, how I preferred Trey McBride to Greg Dortch. But it didn't matter. Greg Dortch was massive chalk and was played like 2 snaps. But it didn't matter because everyone in my lineup got injured. So it sucked because I saw that edge in the slate where the field was overly confident in a play. They got punished for it. I was right, but it didn't matter because everyone got injured in my lineup. So that was a bit tilting. But yeah, so let's talk about this slate. We'll take a look at the Vegas odds. 43.5 over under with the 49ers 3.5-point favorites. As far as injury news goes for the 49ers, expect McCaffrey to go. They just have Melissa as probable. Also expecting Brock Purdy to go. No Deebo Samuel, so you're probably going to get Juwan Jennings and Ray McLeod kind of mixing in a bit more at wide receiver. But we'll start off at the top, McCaffrey. I think a great play in both formats. He should play a majority of the game at wide receiver at running back. He does get a lot of targets, though. He played last week 44 of the 63 snaps. I think he's going to be in that 75%-ish range. And with DraftKings being full point PPR, I think he stands out as the top overall play on the slate. So really, really do like McCaffrey. He's going to be extremely popular, but he looks good. Brock Purdy's 9.6. So in his first couple of games, he's looked like a solid quarterback. I think I do prefer Geno slightly to Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy, quarterbacks are safe plays in the showdown. And if he continues to play like this, he's a solid play on the slate. 15 and 21 fantasy points in the first couple games he started. That's not bad. It's not like Seattle's defense is great either. But it is, again, on the road, so a little bit different. Below that, so again, Deebo Samuel going to be out for a while with that high ankle sprain. So Brandon Ayuk should be operating as a wide receiver 1. At this price point, I think he makes for a really good option. Did only have 2 catches on 3 targets last week, but they just didn't have to throw the ball, right? They were killing Tampa Bay, so they didn't have to air it out too much. But this game, relatively tight spread, right? It was 2.5. So Ayuk going to be operating as a wide receiver 1. This is a guy that does have big play upside, so I do like him quite a bit at this price point. George Kittle has been quiet of late, but you would think he gets more opportunities in the passing game as well. He's still running a lot of routes. He's still out there a ton. He played 50 of the 63 snaps, so I like Kittle. It'll be interesting to see what his ownership is, because I think if people are going to go in this range for a pass catcher, they're just going to look to Brandon Ayuk. But don't forget about George Kittle. He's still a good pass catching tight end, still a guy that can look to in the red zone. So it'll be interesting to see what ownership comes in on in those top targets there for the 49ers. Below that, you have the 49ers defense, who is definitely a solid play. The 49ers, one of the better defenses in the league. I will say, per usual, they're probably going to go a bit over-owned on this showdown. But defense is a very, very high variance position. But at 5K, it's not like an outrageous price point for defense. So do have interest in the 49ers defense. Mason been operating as the running back 2 over the last couple weeks. He saw 19 of the 63 snaps. Probably saw a few extra carries because the game was just a massive blowout there at the end. So at this price point, I think he's a bit overpriced. Again, I would expect McCaffrey to play a bit more if the game was competitive. Kevin Coleman was running back 3, but he didn't see any action. I don't think he saw a snap. He did not. So Can't go there unless we are otherwise. Robbie Gould, 4K. I mean, you guys know my thoughts on kickers for the Showdown. They're good plays. They're good plays. They usually go a bit under-owned in GPPs. They're just very safe. So I like Robbie Gould at 4K. Good kicker. The cheap wide receivers are where it gets interesting here. So last week, when Debo went down, you saw 22 snaps for Juwan Jennings, 28 for Ray McCloud, and then you saw a few for Danny Gray. He played 13 snaps. So the question here is, are we going to see Juwan Jennings playing out wide as the wide receiver 2, or is that going to be Ray McCloud and Juwan Jennings is going to stick in the slot, right? That's where there's some uncertainty here with the situation. If you think Juwan Jennings is going to be playing a lot in 2 wide receiver sets and then playing the slot in 3 wide receiver sets, then I think he looks like one of the best values of the board at 3.6. But if you think it's going to be Ray McCloud operating as the outside wide receiver and Jennings stays in the slot, then McCloud at 1.2 looks really good. So that's just where the uncertainty is, I think, with the secondary wide receivers here for the 49ers, with Jennings, with Ray McCloud. Either way, I think both are good values, but if you can guess right on how they're going to play it, then I think that's going to be a pretty big edge to the slate. Kyle Juszczyk, he's the fullback. I mean, he does get targets. He's a fine dart thrower in tournaments, but I do think he's a little overpriced. Backup tight ends, I mean, Tyler Kroft played 16 snaps, played on 3 passing plays. You're just hoping he runs a route in the red zone and catches a touchdown. I really can't feel confident with that. Ross Dwelly was also inactive, so don't go there. Danny Gray, I mentioned he played a few snaps. He'll probably be operating as a wide receiver 4. He had 1 catch on 1 target last week, and he played 13 snaps. So let's move on to Seattle. Seattle, pretty easy to talk about. How about this from Pete Carroll, right? We get the news before the Sunday slate starts that, Tony Jones Jr. is going to be our starting running back. Really now, Pete Carroll, huh? Let's take a look at those snaps. So Tony Jones going to be the starting running back, huh? He played 5 snaps. This tilts me the most out of anything for DFS. Why lie? What advantage do you have to gain from lying? Right? That's just a straight up lie. Travis Homer started and played 49 of the 54 snaps. He said Tony Jones is going to be the starting running back. He played 5 snaps. So it's just like, I hate when coaches do that. I absolutely hate it. It's so incredibly tilting. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. Ken Walker did participate in limited fashion. I expect he'll be available. If he's not available, then you're going to look at Travis Homer, or do an opposite. Do the opposite of what Pete Carroll says. If Pete Carroll says, we're going to ride with Travis Homer again, it's probably going to be Tony Jones Jr. that plays the whole game. So, but I do expect Ken Walker to play. And assuming he plays and there's no limitations, at this price point, I think he looks like a pretty solid play. Is a bit involved in the passing game. So the only thing I would worry about with Ken Walker is aggravating the injury or some sort of limitation. Now back to the top, Geno Smith is 10-6. I personally feel a little bit better about him than I do Brock Purdy. 20-plus fantasy points now the last 5 games. I mean, he's putting up solid performances. Does have a little bit of rushing upside. Like, he's gone for 20-plus rushing yards now in 4 of the last 5 games. So I prefer him slightly to Purdy. But it's also a bit of a better matchup, I will say, for Purdy than is Geno Smith. But Smith, still the guy that I would prefer of the 2 quarterbacks. And then Lockett and Metcalf, like, we know we're getting out of these guys, right? They're going to play basically the entire game. Metcalf played 49 of the 54 snaps. Lockett played 50 of the 54. Both have a ceiling. So, I mean, the tough part is picking between these guys if you're going to pick between. And it's like, I always get these guys wrong. Literally always. Like, if I go Lockett, it's the Metcalf game. If I go Metcalf, it's the Lockett game. But I like them both a lot. I don't really have a strong take on which one I prefer. And then, Homer is way overpriced if Ken Walker plays. If Ken Walker misses, then we can look to Homer, who played a lot, didn't do much with the snaps, but would be a decent play if Ken Walker's out. Again, I'm expecting Ken Walker to play, though. Goodwin, I think, is a bit overpriced. He'll be operating as a slot wide receiver. Did have a big game, 20 fantasy points last game, but again, I would say more of an outlier performance from him. So I think he's a bit overpriced. He did play 41 of the 54 snaps, a bit more than he usually does, but he's playable. Again, I think he is a bit too pricey, though. And then the tight ends. So Seattle runs a lot of tight ends. Last week, you saw Noah Fant play 30 snaps, played in 18 passing plays. Will Dissly played 21 snaps, played on 11 passing plays. Colby Parkinson played 17 snaps, played on 10 passing plays. So, I mean, Font, I think, is the tight end that has the highest ceiling. Didn't do much, or had a donut last week, but previous to that, 5, 3, 4, 6 targets. So I think he's the guy with the higher ceiling. I think Dissly, not as high of a ceiling, but has been averaging 2, 3 targets a game. So if you want that upside, it's Font. If you want maybe the safer, better punt per dollar play, it's Dissly. Myers, same thing I said about Robbie Gould. Good play in both formats. Kickers are safe. I like them. Seahawks D at 3-2. Not the best defense, but going up against an inexperienced quarterback, I think they're playable for that reason alone. Plus, again, playing at home, pretty hostile environment, so they're playable. You guys know my thoughts. I usually don't play defenses in the showdown, but yeah, both defenses are viable on the slate. Tony Jones Jr., again, out of play, and again, just do the opposite, as I said, of what Pete Carroll says. And then I mentioned Parkinson, right? He was the tight end 3. He had 1 catch on 2 targets. He's a fine dart throw. I mean, he played 17 snaps, played on 10 passing plays. That's really it, though. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to mention. Laquan Treadwell played 4 snaps as the wide receiver 4. Dark Young played 2 snaps. Yeah, so I think we kind of covered everyone that I think is viable on this slate. So that'll wrap it up for the Showdown video. Again, guys, if you have been enjoying the DFS content, just make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Let's hope we avoid injuries. Let's hope it goes better than Monday, and I'll see you guys in the next one.